Most people spend their entire lives blaming the world for how they feel. They point at the noise outside, the people who wronged them, the circumstances that broke them, the luck that never arrived. They stand in the middle of their own wreckage and look everywhere except inward. But here is the truth that no one wants to sit with. The chaos you keep experiencing is not coming from your circumstances. It is coming from you, from the version of you that has never learned how to be still, from the version of you that reacts before it thinks, from the version of you that mistakes movement for progress and confuses noise for power. The chaos around you is nothing more than a reflection of the chaos within you. Read that again, slowly. Think about the last time your life felt unstable. Really think about it. Was it the situation itself that collapsed you, or was it your response to the situation? Because most people, if they are honest, will admit that the moment things fell apart was not the moment the problem arrived. It was the moment they lost control of themselves. The moment they panicked, reacted, spoke without thinking, decided without clarity, chased relief instead of resolution. That is where the real collapse begins. Not outside, inside. This is not comfortable to hear. Good. Comfort has never built anyone worth becoming. There's a certain kind of person who moves through life like a leaf in the wind. They go wherever the emotion takes them. When something upsets them, they respond immediately. When something frightens them, they retreat immediately. When something tempts them, they surrender immediately. They are not living, they are reacting. And there is a profound difference between a life that is lived and a life that is merely reacted to. One is directed, one is dragged. And most people are being dragged through their own existence without ever realizing it. Reacting feels powerful in the moment. It feels like expression, like truth, like proof that you feel things deeply. But reaction without discipline is not strength. It is weakness, wearing the costume of passion. A man who cannot hold his tongue in anger has no real authority. A woman who cannot sit with discomfort for 5 minutes will never build anything that lasts longer than a mood. Reaction is the enemy of result, and yet it is the default setting of almost every human being walking this earth. Here's what lack of self-control actually costs you. Not in theory, in practice. Every time you react emotionally to a situation that required a measured response, you lose information. Because when the mind is flooded with emotion, it cannot process clearly. It cannot see the full picture. It sees only what the feeling wants it to see. Anger narrows your vision. Fear distorts your perception. Anxiety creates problems that do not exist yet. And in that narrowed, distorted, anxious state, you make decisions. You say things. You act. And then you live with the consequences of choices made by a version of yourself that was not in control. That version will cost you relationships. It will cost you opportunities. It will cost you the respect of people who were watching how you handled pressure. And eventually, it will cost you your own self-respect. Because deep down, you know the difference between who you are at your best and who you become when control leaves the room. Chaos does not arrive fully formed. It builds slowly, through 1,000 small surrenders. It begins with the thought you do not examine, the impulse you do not question, the reaction you justify because the other person deserved it, the discipline you abandon because you were tired, the decision you make at 11 at night when you should have made it at 11 in the morning when your mind was clear. Chaos is incremental. It accumulates in the gaps between who you intend to be and who you actually are in the moments when no one is holding you accountable, including yourself. Especially yourself. You wonder why your finances feel unstable. Look at how you make financial decisions. Are they made from clarity and long-term thinking, or from impulse and emotional state? You wonder why your relationships feel chaotic. Look at how you communicate under pressure. Are your words chosen from a place of intention, or are they weapons launched from a place of feeling? You wonder why your health keeps deteriorating. Look at how you behave when no one is watching. when willpower is low and comfort is close. The chaos in your outer life is always a diagram of the chaos in your inner world. There is a quieter kind of power that most people never discover because they are too busy being loud about their pain. It is the power that comes from sitting with discomfort without running from it. The power that comes from pausing before you speak. From thinking before you act, from choosing a direction and holding it even when the emotion in your chest is screaming at you to abandon it and go somewhere easier. The Stoics understood this, not as philosophy in a textbook, as a practical operating system for life. They understood that between a stimulus and a response, there is a space, and in that space lives your entire character, your entire future. Every person who has ever built something meaningful, maintained something difficult, or become someone trustworthy, learned to live in that space. Learn to slow down the gap between what happens to them and what they do about it. Because that gap is not emptiness. That gap is where discipline lives. That gap is where clarity is born. That gap is the difference between a person who is mastered by their life and a person who masters it. Consider two people facing the same impossible situation. A betrayal, a failure, a loss, an unexpected collapse of something they built and believed in. The first person feels the weight of it immediately. The chest tightens, the mind races. Within hours, they have said things they cannot take back, made decisions they will regret, burned bridges that were not theirs to burn. They move fast and feel justified because the situation was genuinely hard. And yes, the situation was hard, but their response made it catastrophic because they handed the steering wheel to their worst moment and then were surprised when the car ended up somewhere they never intended. The second person feels the same weight. Do not mistake discipline for the absence of feeling. They feel everything, but they do not act from that place. They go quiet. They breathe. They give themselves the space to see clearly before they move. They ask, what does this situation actually require from me? Not what do I feel like doing? Not what would feel satisfying right now? What does this actually require? And from that question, they find a direction. It is slower. It is less dramatic. It has no audience. But 3 months later, one of these two people has rebuilt something. And the other is still explaining why they exploded. That is the entire difference. Not talent, not luck, not circumstance. Response, discipline. The willingness to govern yourself in the moments when governance is hardest. Self-control is not suppression. This is where most people misunderstand it. They believe that discipline means feeling nothing. That stoicism means becoming cold and mechanical. That control means locking yourself behind a wall where nothing can reach you. That is not discipline. That is avoidance dressed in armor. True self-control is not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of awareness. It is the ability to observe what you are feeling without being commanded by it. To say, I am angry right now. I can feel that anger fully. I understand where it comes from, and I am choosing deliberately what I do with it. That is mastery, not suppression, not denial, awareness combined with choice. The undisciplined person experiences an emotion and becomes it. The disciplined person experiences an emotion and witnesses it. One is inside the storm. The other is watching the storm from a high enough altitude to understand its shape, its direction, and what to do while it passes. This is not something you are born with. It is something you build through daily practice. Through thousands of small moments where you choose the harder path over the comfortable one. Through learning to sit with what is difficult without escaping into distraction, substances, noise, or the endless numbing scroll of a screen that was designed to keep you from ever being still. Silence is a discipline that most people are no longer capable of. We have built an entire civilization around avoiding stillness. And in that avoidance, we have lost something critical. We have lost the ability to hear ourselves clearly. When the mind is always filled with noise, input, stimulation, it cannot process, it cannot integrate, it cannot see patterns, it cannot identify what actually needs to change. It just keeps reacting, keeps absorbing, keeps being shaped by whatever the loudest voice in the room is saying. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is the environment in which clarity becomes possible. And clarity is not a luxury. It is the foundation of every good decision you will ever make. Without it, you are guessing in the dark and calling it intuition. Build silence into your life deliberately. Protect it, because every hour you spend in genuine stillness is an hour in which your mind is doing the quiet, invisible work of understanding, organizing, separating what matters from what does not. And that separation is everything. The disciplined person knows what matters. That is why they do not waste energy on what does not. Discipline is not the grand gesture. It is the 10,000 quiet choices that no one ever sees. Here is the final truth. And it is the hardest one. You cannot control other people. You cannot control outcomes. You cannot control the timing of life. You cannot force the world to behave the way you need it to in order to feel stable. The people who spend their lives trying to control what is outside them will always be unstable, because outside is chaos. Outside is other people's choices. Outside is weather and markets and grief and timing. You cannot grip any of it. And the harder you try to grip it, the more it slips, and the more exhausted and frantic and brittle you become. But you can control yourself completely. Your response, your attention, your words, your habits, your standards, the way you treat your own mind when the pressure is highest and the clarity is lowest. This is the only real territory you have ever owned, and most people have never set foot in it. They have given that territory away to other people's opinions, to their own worst impulses, to the comfort of reaction and the temporary relief of avoidance. Take it back. Quietly, deliberately, without fanfare. The moment you stop trying to control the storm around you and start mastering the weather within you, your life does not become easy. Life is never easy, but it becomes navigable. It becomes directional. It becomes yours. And there is nothing more powerful on this earth than a person who is fully, quietly, completely in command of themselves. Not because they have conquered everything outside, but because they have conquered the one thing that was always theirs to conquer. Chaos is not your fate, it is your default, and defaults can be changed. You are not a leaf in the wind, you are the wind. Master yourself, the rest will follow. Comment, I master myself.